Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Adams, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Major General David Tomei. Major General Tomei is retiring shortly after 40 years of military service, and this evening marks one of his last official roles at the memorial as a uniformed member of the Australian Defence Force. So we thank you for your service. This evening, we're honoured to acknowledge Mr. Yang Xinju, Assistant Director, Patriots and Veterans Entitlements Commission, Republic of Korea Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs. We also warmly welcome graduates of the Officer Cadet School Portsea, Class of 1974 50th Anniversary Reunion, and members of the 1979 Women's Royal Australian Army Corps Officer Cadet Course 45th Anniversary Reunion. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us during war and on operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Thomas Sydney Ough Dealy. Thomas Dealy was born on the 20th of August 1896 in Hong Kong, China. Known by his middle name Sydney, he was one of 3 children born to William Kirkman Dealy, the headmaster of Queen's College Secondary School, and his wife Anna Dealy. Sydney spent the early years of his childhood in Hong Kong before being sent to England to attend Stonyhurst College with his older brother Frank. There, Sydney excelled academically and on the sporting field as a member of all the athletic teams. He was also an active participant in the cadets program at Stonyhurst. After his graduation, he and his brother moved to Australia to continue their studies. Sydney settled in Adelaide and started to take classes at Roseworthy Agricultural College alongside his brother. He was still studying there when the First World broke out in 1914. Sydney Dealy enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 15th of April 1916. He was assigned to the 3rd Reinforcements of the 48th Infantry Battalion with the rank of private. Dealy's leadership qualities were soon identified, and he was sent for training to become a non-commissioned officer. He was eventually promoted to corporal and embarked for active service from Adelaide in early February 1917 on board the troop ship Sang Bi. Dealy arrived in England on the 2nd of May, disembarking at Devonport. From there, he and his comrades were sent to camp at Codford to continue training. 2 months later, Dealy was transferred into the ranks of the Australian Flying Corps and joined No. 30 Training Squadron at Turnhill. He trained at the School of Military Aeronautics and began learning to fly early aircraft such as the de Havilland DH-5 biplane fighter. He was commissioned at the end of September 1917, but a month later he crashed his aircraft, sustaining several fractures. He was discharged from hospital in late November and requested a posting to Scotland, where he hoped to fly Sopwith Camel fighters. This was granted, and by the end of 1917, Dealy had been promoted to lieutenant and was training on camels near the town of Prawn in Scotland. In early March 1918, Lieutenant Dealy was briefly reunited with his brother Frank, who was visiting England on leave from the AIF. Soon after, Dealy returned to Ayr to continue his training at the School of Aerial Fighting. On the 7th of March, he took off in a Sopwith Camel on a routine flight, but quickly ran into trouble with the machine, which began to spin and nosedive towards the earth. Within seconds, the Camel crashed into the ground, killing Dealy instantly. His brother Frank, who was about to return to the front, was quickly recalled to Scotland and was able to attend Dealy's funeral in the chapel at Stonyhurst. At Frank's request, Lieutenant Dealy was buried on the college grounds just outside the church, where he remains today. Frank Dealy returned to the front soon after and was himself killed in action 6 months later. Lieutenant Thomas Sydney Dealy was 21 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We will now remember Lieutenant Thomas Sydney Ough Dealy, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If you're able, I now invite you to please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.